सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। You sit over here so the lights will help. Not that far, you can come close. Last class we were seeing mantra 7. This mantra number 7, Bhagavan Brahmaji over here talks about para and the apara vidya in terms of the absolute consciousness, and this absolute when it comes in union with the prism of mind, body and intellect, how it expresses. So the absolute unconditioned consciousness is referred to as the para, and the apara is the conditioned consciousness which creates the pluralistic experiences that in the seat of meditation may one go towards the Nirgun Swarup. These mantras are for deep contemplation. The student who has arrived, teacher time and again provides these mantras to help facilitate meditation and to keep the student in meditation. Even when we come out of meditation, our mind should effortlessly wander into these fertile pastures of the thought process instilled about this absolute presence, absolute awareness, which is Sarvajna, Sarvavid, Yasyesha Mahima Bhuvi, Divye Brahmapure, Hyesha Vyomni Atma Pratishtitaha. The Satchidananda Swarup was talked about, the Swarupa Lakshana, Sarvajna, Sarvavit. Divya over here is the Chaitanya Swarup. Then Brahmapure Hyesha Vyomni Atma Pratishtita, the Satsvarup of that is talked about, and none other than this Ananda Rupam Amrutatvam Yat Vibhati is the Anand Swarup. So Sat Chit Anand Swarup is pointed out in this mantra, and that is what we saw. This next mantra is a very important mantra, that when sadhana is done properly, the internal confusions are removed, the internal avidya created wrong thinking, and the wrong thinking created habitual living, when that is removed, that is when we enter truly the Nididhyasan portion. And in this Nididhyasan, all these tendencies are weeded out, and the weeding out of these tendencies is actually this mantra, that when we do our job properly, this is what happens. So this Brahma Sakshatkar results in none other than the removal of these inner confusions. Asya Paramatma Ajnanasya Phalam Asya Paramatma Jnanasya Phalam Idam Abhidhiyate. Over here, the fruit of this knowledge is talked about, and what is the fruit of the knowledge is the removal of all the tendencies, and that is the greatest Brahma Vidya's fruit, that when these confusions are removed, the human being stands tall, like Gurudev used to say, not a man, not an animal man, not a man, but a God man. And this is the standing of the human being as a God man when the confusions are removed. Vidyate Hridaya Granthi Chidyante Sarva Samshayaha Kshiyante Chasya Karmani Tasmin Drishte Paravare Vidyate Hridaya Granthihi Chidyante Sarva Samshayaha Kshiyante Chasya Karmani Tasmin Drishte Paravare. So many people say that, Swamiji, what are the indicators that I am on this path of self-evolution, and what are the indicators that this Brahma Vidya is working, that my sadhana is doing well? This is the litmus test. This is what should happen in our life as we are doing sadhana. And if our sadhana is done properly, then our sadhana results in when our sadhana is done properly, then our sadhana, when it is done properly, it starts showing indicators from within that we have reached certain land posts, we have reached certain mileposts, and those are in the direction of going towards the higher. And all of them are very beautifully pointed out over here. Vidyate hrudaya granthihi. The knots of the heart. What is referred to as the hrudaya granthi, at one level it is avidya. We are talking about the absolute avidya as the karan sharira. This creates more and more and more and more tendencies for us, but when our sadhana is done, the pressure of the vasana decreases. Vasana is not able to touch us as much. And the reason why vasana is not able to touch us is because vasana is born out of avidya, ignorance, and more clarity when it starts happening from within, the clarity of the thought process itself, even though it is responsible for generating thoughts, but when the Shastra Janita Jnana starts taking place in the buddhi, and the buddhi is able to stay inspired by drawing sustenance from this chitta, this memory bank, and the memory bank has the stored knowledge of Shastra Jnana. When the buddhi starts reveling in it, what happens is the tendencies which make us behave in a particular way, the buddhi clearly recognizes the origin of that as avidya, and the buddhi stands tall in front of it, and the very presence of the buddhi, the vasanas drop, and in this way the hrudaya granthi, the avidya created tendencies, they just start falling off. And this is vidyate hrudaya granthi. And this hrudaya granthi created doubts. Should I do this? Should I not do this? Should I go over here? Should I not go over there? Our life takes us on so many paths, especially for sadhana. In the worldly life, things happen. I have to go over there to pick up this, because we are not talking about that type of going here, going there. We are talking about the Nishchayatmika buddhi. It knows where to go to get what it wants, to sustain the continuous inspired tempo within. And in terms of getting concrete stuff to get rid of its ignorance and doubt, that doubtless knowledge, the buddhi has stored knowledge in chitta through shravanam, but because I have practiced it and I keep on practicing it day in day out, that knowledge gains internal strength, and the practice which allows my shravanam to gain strength, that knowledge should be doubtless knowledge, and that knowledge becomes doubtless knowledge because the buddhi has taken time to dissect it, and wherever there are doubts, The doubts are removed by going to a proper place to get the answers. It will go to a teacher that it has surrendered. It will go to the Shastra that it has surrendered. And in that way, Bhagavan Krishna also says that this Nishchayatmika Buddhi Ekeha Kuru Nandana, that Ek Pratishtha should be there. And that Ek Pratishtha of the Buddhi is the removal of all doubts. Chidyante sarva samshayaha. If that buddhi gets this from here, if that buddhi gets this from here, and if it gets all sorts of information, what to listen to, and how do I remove the internal confusions? That is why the Sankhya buddhi, that Ek buddhi, is Nishchayatmika buddhi. That Nishchayatmika buddhi is Nishchayatmika because it has surrendered to one and only one, Ek Guru, Ek Shastra. Firmly it has accepted Prasthana Trayi as the only valid means for it to follow, as a path to tread in life. And only that Kshurasya Dhara, the sharp intellect, Nishta Duratyaha, this buddhi which walks the razor's edge of the Shastra, it allows the razor blade of the Shastra to sharpen itself, and it becomes this sword which removes the samsara tree from within. Bhagavan also uses that in 15th chapter, that with the Vairagya Sina remove this samsara tree. In that is Chidyante sarva samshayaha, the removal of all doubts, all confusions. And necessarily when all doubts, all confusions are gone, Kshiyante cha asya karmani. And few karmas, but few powerful karmas are unleashed by that person. And we see in people like Vivekananda and Swami Chinmayananda, even Brahmananda, such great personalities, what they did is, once this knowledge has been acquired, they know exactly what to do, and they act upon that and that alone, and that becomes one solid karma they do, and the fruit of the karma will be reaped for generations to come. They don't need to do this today and that tomorrow and that some other day to please this person, that person, that person. No, this karma, one powerful vocation in life they tread, and that becomes their salient feature upon which they stand. And Kshiyante chasya karmani, all other karmas fall off. And this karma actually doesn't even bind, because this karma is born out of wisdom and knowledge. And when does this happen? Tasmin drishte paravare, paravare drishte. Only when that is seen, all this happens. So when we start getting glimpses of this reality in our seat of meditation, we may meditate, we may sit for 45 minutes. And in 45 minutes, true meditation, it may be for 5 minutes. And in that 5 minutes, that 30-second glimpse of the higher, boom, once the light is turned on in the room, that 1000-watt bulb, and immediately it may be turned off. But in that flash, you will know exactly what is where in the room, even after the light goes off. And that glimpse of the reality will become the path to follow, because the light would have showed us where to go, how to go, and that itself is the greatest proof. I don't need any other proof. In fact, that makes my Sharanagati to the teacher and Sharanagati to the Shastra even more. The teacher may be talking about the same thing for 20 years, but now, because of that glimpse, my surrender becomes complete. That Karpanya dosho bhavata svabhava pruchhami tvam dharmasam muda chetaha. All that confusion, I'm surrendering to you, but I'm in utter confusion. And it took 18 chapters to finish that and for this to happen. Karishye vachanam tava, all this had to happen. Otherwise, in 18th chapter, towards the end, he would never fold his hand and say, Karishye vachanam tava. Because throughout the whole discourses of the 17 chapters which follow 16, 17 chapters, all confusions of Arjuna gone. Vridyate hridaya granthi. Chidyante sarva shamshayaha. All doubts. No doubts remain. Should I do? Should I not? No. Karishye vachanam tava. With firm determination, I will do. Kshiyante chasya karmani. What karmani? He actually wanted to run away from the war, but he engages in war. And he does one karma, that war, but he does it properly. And tasmin drishte paravare. Bhagavan gave him that vision, and that vision alone is what is important over here. So, vidyate hridaya granthihi avidya vasana prachayaha buddhya ashraya kamaha. What is this vidyate hridaya granthi? Shankaracharya ji says, avidya vasana. This vasana, born out of avidya, prachayaha, started the tumultuous perennial flow of this avidya kruta vasana, buddhya ashraya kamaha. And where is the flow of this river? This river flows only in this one direction, towards this buddhi. It becomes the fodder for this buddhi to follow. These thoughts flow in this one direction towards buddhi ashrayaha. The flow of the vasana is in towards the buddhi, and the buddhi has ashraya in avidya. And avidya, aprachaya, buddhi ashraya kamaha. And all these thinking thoughts, what are these? Desires, kamaha. All the desires originating from there. Kamaha ye asya hridishritaha katha Upanishad. Over here Shankaracharya ji connects that it is not just said in Mundaka Upanishad. Other Upanishads say the same thing. That why did he bring this? Because this is an indicator that if I'm on this path, these things should happen. And in his commentary, he may write that this thing should happen, because this one Upanishad is saying no, other Upanishads say the same thing. He refers Katha Upanishad 2.3.14, Brahadaranyaka Upanishade 4th chapter, Chaturtha Brahmana, 7th mantra, again the same idea that these things should happen. The knots of the heart which are rooted in ignorance, they should pop. And they should pop at the level of buddhi. But it can only happen provided this buddhi is an informed intellect. This buddhi has to get knowledge. Where does it get knowledge? We saw mana, buddhi, the other side of buddhi is chitta, and this is ahankar. So that chitta is where we store the shravan janita jnanam, because buddhi requires this memory bank from where to draw and put into practice. Certainly it has not brought it from the past. It has only brought avidya from the past. So that shravan janita jnanam stored away, when it practices through that knowledge, that asina, that sword, when this tries to pass through, the buddhi says, no, not you, remove. No, not you, remove. And in this way, this buddhi itself cleans up the mass of confusion, and this confusion cannot touch us. And the prarabdha will allow certain knowledge to flow, because this is the voluminous type of karmic debt that we have brought. It is such a huge, vast. So from this sanchita karma is what? Bank of all our total karmic debt, not just of this life, but of all other lives put together. Out of that, only the funnel of prarabdha will be poured down onto the buddhi. Whatever the prarabdha allows to flow, so the buddhi fights that out. All avidya is removed, which is falling through the funnel of prarabdha. Not only that, but when the flow of that prarabdha starts reducing, that avidya, when it starts reducing, the buddhi is capable and able to practice its knowledge stored in chitta even more, and the buddhi shines even more, and that buddhi's shine is able to shine through that funnel into the sanchit bank, and even that starts cleaning up the sanchit karma. The sanchit karmas are cleaned up to an extent because of the presence of the very powerful light of wisdom which is being practiced. It is like a bright light of the lighthouse on the seashore. If we look at the wattage of that bulb, it is massive, and there is a street light. The wattage of the street light and the wattage of the bulb of the lighthouse, how much can that street light light? And how much can the light in the lighthouse light? It can go for miles into the ocean and the ship can see it, but the street light which is right next to it, that cannot be seen. In the same way, the prajwalit buddhi, it can travel. The light of that awareness can actually even start affecting the bank of sanchit karma. And the prarabdha, what it has to go through, the prarabdha which it is destined to go through, that prarabdha it will not fiddle around with, but the prarabdha which creates confusion, that prarabdha will be removed. The prarabdha created confusion will be removed. How? Atmajnana. That itself is the Atmajnana, when confusions are removed. So when we read further, we will see what is said over here, and that kama ye asya hridi shritaha, all desires accumulated will be gone. Talked about Kathopanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, iti shrutyantara, in such shrutis, hridaya ashrayaha, so na atma ashrayaha vidyate bhedam vinashinam ayati. In the absolute self, in the Paramatma, this confusion is not there. It is said hridaya ashrayaha asau. This avidya is in the jiva, in the embodied self, but na atma ashrayaha, but it is not in the absolute self. Where is that absolute self? Awareness. In that awareness, there is no confusion, there is no avidya. So, na atma ashraya vidyate bhedam vinashinam ayati. That confusion is removed over here. Chidyante sarvagneya vishayaha samshayaha laukikanam amarana tu ganga srotavat pravruttaha vichedam ayanti asya vichhinna samshayasya nivrutta avidyasya yati yani vijnana utpattehe prak tattani janmantare cha apravritta phalani jnana utpatti saha bhavini chakshiyante karmani. Loaded sentence Shankaracharya ji has put over here, that what gets destroyed. Chidyante sarvagneya vishayaha, all known things. Gneya vishaya, known things, known around us, which are capable of creating confusions. Like I said, running over here, running over there, believing in this, believing in that. All this mass of confusion which is present over here, shamshayaha, which is capable of creating doubts. All these laukikanam, born out of the worldly jagat, laukikanam amarnatu, all the way up to death arrives. From now up to the time when the death arrives, we are exposed to the world of confusion, and exposed to the confusion which can be generated by people around us, by fascination of objects around us, by situations around us. All that is capable of creating more and more doubts and confusions. All that Ganga Srota Pravaha Pravruttaha, like a perennial flow of Ganga, this confusion is in flow around us. Creation means confusion. Without confusion, you cannot have creation. So the world around us, which is capable of disturbing, and we get agitated by the world. Of course we will get agitated by the world, because it is a flow of confusion, he himself says. But because of this knowledge, confusion cannot touch me. The confusion on the outside will remain there, it has no ability to enter and perturb my knowledge. One is the doubts over here. The other is the doubts over here. So many doubts. So, Kamana Hridishritaha he had addressed. Vidyate Hridaya Granthi. Where is the Hridaya Granthi? It is not in the mother-in-law. It is over here. So, over here, the confusions on the inside. Now the doubts on the outside. My perception of her, it is going to be there. Atma Gnyan will allow that person to stay there, this person to stay here, and that person to stay there. I have no compelling force to go over there and fiddle around with it. No. So, Vidyate Hridaya Granthi, Chidyante Sarva Samshayaha. Avidya gone over here, doubts over here, all of them gone. Chidyante Sarva Gneya Vishayaha, all the known things around us. Shamshayaha Laukikanam. And it will continue Amaranatu up to the time when our last breath is there. The confusion of the world will be there. Ganga Srotavat Pravrutta Vichedam Ayanti. That will come to an end. Asya Vichinna Samshayasya. These confusions, when they are removed, completely confusions removed, outside, inside, clarity of thought comes. These people of wisdom, they don't have the compelling force within to go and fix the world. We cannot fix the world. We can only fix ourselves. And to that person where proper thought pattern arrives, I have helped myself, bas. That's all. Such a person, asya vichinna, the one who has cut out, samshayasya, all the doubts, nivrutta avidyayasya, and this avidya, when that is also nivruttasya, it is removed, the doubts all gone, avidya all gone. Yani vijnana utpattehe prak tani, before the dawn of the knowledge. Today knowledge arrives because I have come over here, I have been listening to Mundaka Upanishad, I am studying it, I am practicing it in my life, and I continue the Shravanam, I continue the Maranam, continue the Shravanam, Mananam, I continue that continuously, and this avidya which has started long before the arrival of today. So that is why it is said over here, Vijnana Utpattehe. Today this knowledge arrived because I am listening, I am practicing, listening, practicing. So this creates knowledge. This knowledge becomes part of my memory bank, chitta. And this knowledge starts churning in my buddhi. And this knowledge, when it is starting to churn in my buddhi, this vijnana utpatte prak tatani, before that the avidya had smeared my entire bank of sanchit karma. Janmantare cha apravritta phalani, And from today knowledge has arrived, but I continue to live and I don't know how long I am going to live. That knowledge which came today, and I still have some maybe 20-30 years to go, and in the 20-30 years after the dawn of knowledge, all the karmas which are done, and before the arrival of knowledge, from the innumerable births up to today, and from today up to the time of my death, so all this bank of karma, this sanchit karma, and all this agami karma, up to the time of death, over here, janmantare cha apravritta phalani, and the fruits which are due to fructify sometime from now until I die, gnyan uppatti sahabhavani cha, and from the dawn of knowledge, with the knowledge, all karmas done, sahabhavini, along with the knowledge, actions done, sarvam kshiyante. He says all of them kshiyante. This is the power of Atmajnana. That is why I said, when through that funnel, the karmas which fall, through that funnel, this Atmajnana goes. And when that Atmajnana, the light of knowledge, as though, it is not like going, the light of knowledge, once it enters this dark avidya, the presence of light removes darkness, because dark and light, these two cannot live together. Wherever there is light, there is no darkness, and wherever there is darkness, there is no light. So that is why he said that today knowledge arrived, but there is a bank of karmas that brought me up to today. Jnana utpatti prak. Before that sanchit karma, and after the dawn of knowledge, sahabhavini, after that agami karma, what I do, which are about to give fruit from this birth, all of them kshiyante. There is only one karma which doesn't go away, and he is addressing that now. He is saying, Natu eta janma arambakani pravritta phalani vat prarabdha. But this birth, what was determined at the time of birth, that this man will live up to 80 years, this man will live up to 70 years, and this man will go through all these things, that which was written by Vidhi Vidhata at the time of our birth, that will not go away. Prarabdha will remain. So it was in the Prarabdha for Vivekananda to die early. It was the prarabdha of Shri Ramakrishna Paramhamsa Ramana Maharshi ji to go through cancer. They never prayed to Arunachala or Mother Kali, remove this cancer. No, it was the prarabdha of the Sharira. It was the prarabdha of these Mahatmas to go through what they go through. The power of the Atma Bal allows them to face prarabdha. They don't even see prarabdha. Gurudev never saw prarabdha. He had So much going on around him. Never saw it. Narayana, Narayana. His life just revolved around Narayana. So like that, over here clearly it is said, Sanchit karma gone, Agami karma gone, Prarabdha remains. So when it is said, Kshiyante chasya karmani, what karmani kshiyante? Sanchit karma, Agami karma, but not the prarabdha. Prarabdha remains. That is why natu, not eta janma arambakani pravritta phalani prarabdha. This, the one which created this birth. In that birth, prarabdha which is created, the prarabdha may in that person's life set up a whole system for Atmajnan, that you may meet, that you will meet this Mahatma, that you may come across such and such person, such and such place. So prarabdha creates the possibility of all the events, but it is the bala of the jiva that chooses what it acts upon. And that is why Bhagavan says, I have done what I have done, and my job is to tell you. You do what you want to do. I cannot tell you what to do. Ultimately, the jiva chooses. And because ultimately the jiva chooses, we have Sanchit karma, Agami karma, and Prarabdha. Without that choice, they could not have been present. But there is something greater, which a lot of people don't know, and a lot of times it is not even said. Right? Prarthana and grace can even create prarabdha for choice. There's a prarabdha of prarabdha. And that, if somebody wills, then it will happen. That's why that uncertain factor, grace and blessings. We don't know from which corner, from where it will arrive. It was Bhagavan's presence that made Arjuna choose. The power of Bhagavan. Even though Bhagavan said, you do what you want to do, but Bhagavan's Kataksha Drishti made him choose. So, indirectly he made sure that he followed it. But who can we tell this to? People will not listen. And that is why there is great efficacy of grace and blessings. Prayers can go a long way. Prayer is when we allow the higher to take over our choice. That is a great prarabdha. In a good way, that prarabdha, not the suffering prarabdha. To come into the flow of a Mahatma's life and to allow that Mahatma to take over the influence of that prarabdha is a great thing. So, tasmin sarvagne asamsarini paravare paramcha karanatmakam Anavaram cha karyatmana tasmin paravare. Tasmin sarvagne. So this student has become sarvagnya. This student is sarvagnya, all-knower. What do you mean all-knower? He knows the self. And the self knows everything. Because the self is the support of everything. Because of that, he is all-knower. In that way, he becomes. Don't literally think you will know the other end of Saturn. It is the very Atma of everything. That is why the Atma, the very self of all beings, all matter, all Ananta Koti Brahmand, that person, this embodied soul, has known the self, which is the self of everything. So over here Shankaracharya ji refers to that person as Sarvagnya. He is Bhagavan. He is omniscient, omnipresent. In that little, Gurudev used to say that 5.5 foot statue of the human being rests the universe. Gurudev used to say, he is that Sarvagnya. And who is that Sarvagnya? Asamsarini. He lives in the samsar, but he is not a samsarini. He will eat the same food, but he is the eater of the joys of all joys of Brahmand. In that one little food, one little plate, he will eat. You should watch Gurudev even eat simple food. Just the joys, he used to relish it. So that asamsarini will go through the motions of all the samsar, but untouched by it. Tasmin sarvagne asamsarini paravare param cha karanatmakam. What is param? The very cause of this whole universe. That is param. Avaram, paravare, avare. What is avare? Karyatmana tasmin paravare. And avaram is the effect, the cause of the Ananta Koti Brahmand. And the effect, I'm seeing these things over here. The inferior effect and the absolute cause. Knowing the absolute cause and saluting the effect, that Sarvagnya Sakshad Aham Asmi iti Drushte. He sees himself as I am. Not that he tells everybody, fall down at my feet, I am something. Not like that, but inside, having known that Ananta Koti Brahmand is dancing at the tip of my fingers. In knowledge, that Atma having realized, which is the self of the universe, which alone, if at all there is a cause of it, what can be the cause other than Atma? So having seen the cause and experiencing the effect with that same equipment created by Prarabdha. So Prarabdha allows me to experience the effect, and Jnana allows me to be the cause, both at the same time. That para avare drushtva sakshad aham asmi iti drushte samsara karana uchchedanam uchyate ityarthaha. He has destroyed the entire samsara. That person uchchedayati, completely gone. Nothing can come over there. And it is said that to such a person, Maya comes and dwells at the feet of that person. Maya, which is the cause of this entire universe, which makes one appear as many, that same Maya comes to the feet of the person. In fact, the Maya does what this person says, and Maya cannot listen to Brahmaji. Brahmaji is only the Vidhi Karta, but this person right over here, he is also, Brahmaji is Jnani. Of course, Maya listens to him, but Brahmaji has created a prarabdha for such and such person, but this person, because of their blessing, can even wipe that out. There's a glory of, on the Bhuloka, the power of a Jnani. It is said that from the highest loka, Indra is also jealous, because Indra doesn't have this power of the 84 lakh devatas. Indra gives instructions, but the devatas all have their own power. And Indra Bhagavan has to fold his hands and says, please listen, please do this, please do this. Even Indra's job is a rough one. And this person on the Bhuloka, complete Maya surrenders. And what can this person not do? Is a glory of realizing in Bhuloka. In Katha Upanishad, Yamadharmaraj says that you have no idea how lucky you are that on Bhuloka you are realizing. In the other lokas, Atma Jnana is not as clearly available. I had a desire to be Yama, and Yama Padvi comes with Atma Jnana. And one of the few devatas who are pratishthit in Atma Jnana, but he comes with a heavy prarabdha. Until Brahmaji's Padvi comes to an end, Yama cannot go anywhere. He's bound by it, but not a Brahmajnani on Bhuloka. That Bhuloka Brahmajnani, because Bhidyate Hridaya Granthi, Chidyante Sarva Samshaya, Kshiyante Chasya Karmani, Tasmin Drishte Paravare. Brahmaji Kshiyante Chasya Karmani, Yamadharmaraj Karmani, they have to wait. They have to wait. They cannot go away. But the Jnani on Bhuloka, no karma remains. This is the privilege of Atma Jnana on Bhuloka, not available anywhere. This mantra is a great, great mantra for inspiration, for our guidepost, and for clarity of understanding as to what should happen. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve